Well, hello everyone. Today is Wednesday, April 15th, 2020. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Walls and Ceilings, roofing contractor and building enclosure, and I'm here with our editorial director, Mark Fowler. First, I want to thank everyone for watching, whether you're on our website, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or however you digitally consume your content. This has definitely been some challenging times for the past few weeks, but as an industry, we will get through this together. And I promise you, we are dedicated to delivering content that will help you run your business, which is why we are honored to be here today with two amazing women leaders in the industry. Nancy Berkinhoff, who is the CEO and president of Ironwood Commercial Builders, and Chris Boccia, who's the executive manager at JD Traditional Industries in New York. So thank you so much. And Mark, I'd like to turn it over to you to start us off with some questions for these great ladies.
Thank you, Jill. And thank you everybody for joining, and thank you for having me part of this great program. So I think BNP's been doing a really nice job with these. And I do want to welcome also my personal welcome to Nancy and Chris, two amazing, powerful women in this industry, which is great to see. We need more of that. And I think that calling this uncertain times is probably an understatement that we can all agree to, because here it is, as you said, it's April 15th and it's tax day. But then again, no, it's not. I think that's a fair statement. We know that that's all been pushed back. That shows you, because even in the life of everything is that we always can count on death and taxes. We can't even count on that right now. So I'd like to start with an overview, and I do think, just for the viewers here that know, we've got two amazing, powerful women contractors, and I think the most amazing thing too is we have one from New York and one from California. So we're going to get a unique perspective of what you might see happening in the New York area and what you might be seeing differently in California area. And in particular, Chris is not only in the New York State, she's, as I understand it, out of the New York City area. So you're actually in the epicenter. And what I'd like to start with both of you ladies is to ask, how are your jobs going? Are you, because when I talk to contractors around the country, we're trying to get a feel of, are jobs up and running, everything, no changes, or are they being shut down? If maybe you could kind of, I'll start with Chris out in New York. How's it going out there? I mean, how are your jobs on pause? Are they running? How's the overview?
Right now, I have probably two jobs that are actually manned up out of typically somewhere in the 20s of my projects. And they're from all different sizes, from small fit outs to, we do a lot of New York City school construction. So the new schools, I have 11 schools right now, and I don't have any men on any of those schools. So New York, in certain industries, are at a dead standstill. And sorry, I kind of jumped right into it. Construction is my heart and soul, but I do want to thank you and Jill for having me and getting the New York perspective from a woman's point of view. But it's not pretty over here. We're definitely struggling. There are some jobs, the MTA jobs, the infrastructure jobs, that are still running. Hospitals, we're building temp hospitals all over. That unfortunately is not my work. That's work of, everybody has kind of their little niches in the industry. I don't do a lot of hospital work.
Okay, and I thank you for that. I do feel for you. I know that besides running in the plaster and wall and ceiling side, I also do the terrazzo flooring industry, and I have a lot of New York contractors, and I talk to them on a regular basis, and they confirm what you said, that New York has been particularly hard hit. Nancy, can we have maybe a little bit? And you're out of the Bay Area, I believe. And how are your jobs kind of hanging in there? Are they paused? Are they pretty much, give us a sense of the flavor of what's going on in there?
Okay. Well, thank you, Mark and Jill, for having Chris and I on your weekly forum. We're grateful to be here. So mainly my operation is in Northern California, and we were the first to go under the shelter-in-place order on March 16th. We're actually 6 of the counties we work in went under order from the governor. And at that point, they deemed construction that was essential, they called it, to continue operating, which would be low-income housing for us, maybe senior housing, hospitals, that type of work. So we are down to 4 jobs right now. One of them is an airport job. So that was deemed essential. And we've had jobs open and close, open and close. So it's been a complete back and forth every day, really. They try to become essential. So we had a senior housing that became essential after it was shut down. So it reopened. And what is my Central Subway is my other one that's deemed transportation. So it's essential. But I would say, you know, we're down 75% of what we had in workforce. And the other drywall plaster contractors in our area, we have weekly talks through WACA. And some of them are down 50%, some are 80% down. It depended on what type of work they had booked. But for us, I would say it's 75% down. Our crews are very minimal right now. And the governor talks every day here. I know he does in New York also.
Correct.
But yesterday, they did have a discussion about different ways they could possibly baby step opening different parts of the state. They're starting to talk about that.
That's interesting. Thank you for that update. So I do, when you say the summer jobs are opening and closing, and I can see that, is it mainly because of whether it's classified as an essential job or non-essential job, and it kind of goes back and forth? Or has there been any issues about maybe like they're not practicing social distancing or another, you know, a reason for health reason for shutting it down? Has it been a mix on that, or how's that?
Well, it's such an unknown, I think, whether it should be deemed essential. We have one school still running that they're deeming essential in that particular city. It's in Piedmont. And, you know, in Chris's area, all the schools are down. So we don't know what deems it essential or non-essential, but it seems to be up to the cities and counties whether they're deeming it to be that. So that's the unknown that's caused them to, well, they should shut down. Then they get the city to say, no, it's an essential job, and it reopens, is what we're seeing.
Chris, is that this? You have the same story about the essential?
Really, Governor Cuomo has deemed infrastructure as essential, the hospital jobs, yet I'm working in a hospital that is a new building that they're retrofitting. And across the street is an existing hospital that is loaded with COVID-19 patients. It's been very difficult for any of the trades to get anybody to go to work there. You can't get the PPE equipment that these guys want and need is in high demand. You're paying way more than what it was a month or so ago. I don't know, Nancy, if you're finding the same thing. But first of all, finding it, second of all, paying for it, and that's not something that's costed into any of your jobs. And then we have the social distancing, which everybody has to work 6 feet apart, which is not necessarily productive. We're probably losing 75% in production. So everything's going to take longer. Everything's going to be in shifts, because even with this hospital, we're only allowed to have 4 guys in our trade on there. And my contract's over $3 million. So it's going to take, I'd normally probably have 20, 25 guys on there. It's going to take a lot longer.
Chris, can I ask, when you say you can only have 4 guys on the job, is that because do they have a formula? Do they
have, as of
square footage and say that's how many you got, or is that how they're doing that?
They're limiting it per trade. So, and this just came out yesterday. They sent us a questionnaire saying, if you're going to put your guys on and it's going to be limited to 4, what are the areas you're going to be able to do? And we're like, you know, if you're limiting us to 4, you're going to have to tell us where you feel that you need us more. It's not a great situation. And, you know, getting the protective equipment that they need is impossible.
That would be, are you having the same issues, Nancy, with getting protected?
Yeah, we're hearing 4 to 5 weeks out for any more N95 masks. So what we started to do yesterday was we had a lot of the t-shirts left from a company picnic. So we're starting to make our own just in case, because we have had one job as of yesterday, I believe it was, make the mask mandatory. So they can't even come on the site without a mask. And also what we're seeing is that some of the guys want to wear the mask, some of them don't. And we're also seeing double shifts happening with the social distancing. So they're wanting to run a day shift and a swing shift.
Well, right before this call, Governor Cuomo came on and made it mandatory to wear a mask in all public places in New York.
Wow, that's good.
So it's now going to be a law.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say your governor has gotten to be pretty popular. I mean, I see him on TV every morning, the Governor Cuomo update, and he does take it serious. And of course, the governor here in California, he's got his little things he's doing too. And I think they're putting their best feet forward, trying to make the best of a bad situation. Have you by chance had any job sites where anybody has been, and I guess the reason I'm asking this question about where they've come out and said that there was a virus detected on the site. My son's actually a union carpenter down in Southern California, and just this week, earlier this week, they came and had a job site meeting, and they were told somebody tested positive. So they basically had to kind of close and clean the job down before they could reopen the job. Has anybody experienced that? And I know we had the LA football stadium that had a couple workers test positive for it. Has that happened to any of your projects?
We had it happen last week. So last week we had the general had informed us that someone had tested positive back on April. They tested positive on the 9th, but they were on the job site on April 1st. So we had to go back and check everyone that was on the job site with this person on April 1st, in case there was an exposure at that point. And then we counted 14 days. So the 14th would have been the quarantine time between them being possibly exposed. So we removed everyone actually the day we found out that this person tested positive, just in case. And we didn't allow them back on that job site till after the 14th. It's been very difficult to figure out what's proper procedure here. Were you exposed? Were you not? They did come in and clean the entire job site after they found out this person tested positive.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Nancy. It's very hard to figure out what the rules are. I was thinking on these jobs, is it the general contractor or the construction manager that's going to set the rules, or do they kind of pass that on to each subcontracting trade and say, hey, you're responsible for your people and set rules, which to me would be confusing because, well, what if the electricians do one thing and the carpenters do something else? Or are you finding it's the general contractor is kind of the lead on that and they set a policy and that's what everybody should do on the job?
We've seen, sorry, Chris, go ahead.
It's okay. We've definitely seen the general contractors take the lead on that. We were asked to do our own protocols and our own COVID safety manuals. But the LaGuardia Airport, which is one of the big New York projects, they've had several positive cases there, and they've had to close down sections of the job and, mandatory quarantine anybody in that area. I believe Rick Cotton, the head of the MTA, walked the job right before he was found positive. And anybody with him that day had to be quarantined. So we've had our hands full here. I know that 3 of my guys have come down with it. And knock on wood, they're all safe and fine and have gotten over it. But it's been a tough road.
Nancy?
Yeah. we're not seeing the general contractor pass any of the cleanup on to the subcontractors at this point. They're kind of taking control of that here. It was a roofer, it happened to be a roofer on that particular job that tested positive. So we do have our safety plan in place. We created the whole COVID safety plan. Many of the jobs are requiring that, and they want to see ours. So we actually went back to that plan when this happened, and we went back to protocol. Okay, what situation is this? And it really came under 3 different possible scenarios in our safety plan. So that's why we just decided to remove everybody until the quarantine date.
Well, that makes sense. So you're being a little better safe than sorry is kind of
Right.
sounds like what you're kind of going with. That's good. Can I ask you ladies how you, communication with your crews have got to be, I mean, historically we just have, you have them come into the shop, the office, you have, I'm sure you go through your project meetings, and obviously we're not doing that now. I'm sure none of you are doing that. How do you keep your crews, what you've got working? How do you keep them motivated? How do you communicate with them? And how's that been going?
Typically, I go through my field super. He's got control of the field, and between the project managers, field super, and myself, we have our business office meetings, but he's more so controlling the field. So he knows each one of the foremen. We typically have quarterly foreman meetings. Obviously, that's not happening right now. But everybody reports in, they call in. We check up on them, especially on payroll days when the foremans are calling in the time, and you're always calling to make sure, that their payroll is right. So it's more, I guess everything is done through the telephone at this point.
It's definitely difficult to keep track of all of this. I have 25 people working from home besides the field. So what I'm having them do is they send me a daily email of what they're doing, what the tasks are for that day. This is my office staff and the estimators. And then at night, they send me what they did. So we're doing that by email. We're going to try a go-to meeting today, actually, with 25 people, which will be new for me, just so that we can connect and maybe see each other's faces. That's been hard. Anybody that does have to go into the office, we're staggering them, no more than 2 at a time. And the field is down substantially. So that's not been as hard to track for us as far as what they're doing. There's a superintendent for each trade. So they're communicating to us about the men.
Well, your shelter in place, we don't have that here. So my
Yeah.
office is still operating with 5 in the office at about 1,700 square feet. So we're kind of all spread out, and I have one project manager, it's kind of broken down, and then they work from home on the other, on the days that they're not in. It's a schedule.
No,
Yeah, so that shows you the difference between from one state to another. They're still able to go into the office. We're not really, unless it's essential.
interesting.
Yeah.
We all know the contractors are, especially subcontractors. I consider subcontractors as problem solvers. It seems like they're the ones that get the job done on the job. I've also noticed in my career that, and this is why on board of directors, I always like to have, if I find I can get a woman contractor on my board, I'm thrilled to death with it, because I think women are very good problem solvers. And the other thing, and I'm leading to my question here, that you tend to see things sometimes differently than maybe the traditional, and I always find that a breath. Is I swear I'm working right now. I've got a very good woman terrazzo contractor. She sees things differently. And and the guys, we all said, listen, no, how do you see this? So I'm curious that we know we're solving the problems, and you and your business and all that. And I know the federal government and the state government are trying to do things. I just got to imagine you might be thinking of what the government could do better to help this situation along, in particular the construction industry. And I'm just wondering if you have any insights of what you think. Are they doing it perfectly, or what could they be maybe doing better or help us out a little bit, or you're out on the end side?
So I got off a phone call this morning. I'm vice president now of Women Builders Council, which is a group of very high-powered women that are in construction in all of the New York area. And we were kind of throwing around ideas of, with the PPP loan, how you get funded and then you have your 8 weeks. But if the governor of your state hasn't released construction, that money is just going to sit there and we're all going to lose it. So we were looking for things in different ways to contact possibly the governor or the mayor and let them know that there are flaws in these programs that are going to hurt MWBEs. And that's just one thing. I mean, we conference call every week on a new topic. Okay. And as far as me as a woman, when this all hit, what did I do? I went and stood online and bought Clorox and Lysol and wipes and everything I could get to keep my guys safe. And I bought, I think, 18 bottles of Purell and sent them out to the field with masks and sanitizing sprays. And I don't know if that's a female side of it or if guys went and did that also.
That's interesting. Nancy, how about on your end?
Well, you know, I think Governor Newsom acted quick over here for us. We feel like it did help reduce the curve of what, it slowed us down quite a bit. Federally, we're applying for the PPP loan. It's been actually a nightmare without going into detail. And we haven't received any money yet. So I think, probably all business owners are thinking about the what ifs. We hear they're going to run out of the funds this week, and there's going to have to be a replenishment that happens. I think that could be quicker. What I personally don't like about the whole operation that goes on the federal side is that they're using, and I know they do this, they use it to bargain, right? I'll give you this, you give me that, all of that. I personally don't think this is the time for that.
I
So
think
that's what I think they could do better. Yeah. They need to be faster at that. The hoops that we're having to go through, and I can tell you a lot of it is, I think, because we're a union contractor, we have union benefits, we're signatory to 4 different unions. They've not made it easy for us to prove what we've paid for health and welfare, what we've paid for pension. It's not been simple. They don't understand that, the people that are making the loans. They don't understand the union world and what goes into that, right? So that's been my experience anyway with it.
I see what you're saying, Nancy, and I work with government on a fairly amount of projects like OSHA things and the silica plans and things like that. And sometimes having to explain to government people, or even on apprenticeship where I work with the Department of Labor, it seems like you have to spend a fair amount of time explaining them about your business. Going, really? Do you really not know how this works? Right. How everything works? We're doing that, and it's interesting. You mentioned about that you've applied for your your payroll protection funding. I know my wife is in the travel industry, so you can imagine what her business is like. It's gone. And she handles Europe, so that's out. It's gone. And her boss filed for that on day 1 when they first announced it. He knew he had to get on it, and he hasn't heard a word back yet. Said that, yeah, you're in the queue, whatever. So, that's sort of I think about the frustration for him, not for me. I'm fine, but, and we're fine. We're okay. But it seems like the government is just too big and moves too slow. There's so many people out there that are good sized business companies like yours that actually need the help.
What we're finding also is that the contractors that say do a lot of the hospital work, that is essential business, or the infrastructure, they're working anyway. They have people on their payroll. So this did not affect them. So they're able to apply for this loan and get the funds for the people that they would keep on their payroll anyway.
Oh, I see. Yeah, well, that kind of shows what the problems are out there. So on another note, is there, because of all the downtime, is there any advantage? And I mean, that's hard to find. We're trying to find some bright lights in these. Are you able to take advantage of having your people do some online training, saying, well, if you can't be out to the job, maybe you could do some online training? Are you finding any of that being any use?
We've done some of that for the people that don't have as big a workload working from home as they would be on a job site. So we've done some OSHA 30s with people and got them through some of that. But for me, I haven't seen any downtime. It's been trying to just, the ball's rolling, right? We're just trying to field everything that comes in every day.
And we're trying to put protocol into place for when it does open. So as Nancy was saying, we have to do our internal protocol. You have to get that to each one of the general contractors. My PPP loan, I've redone 3 times. Easter Saturday, they called me and said, if you don't get this uploaded within, by close of business, you're going to get put at the bottom of the queue. And the day that they opened it up, at 8 o'clock, I went online. And at 8:24, I had uploaded and put in everything. I'm number 1,833. And
Wow.
I'm still not funded.
Wow, that's kind of depressing. We always try to learn from what we, and I'm hoping that everybody, and I'm sure you're thinking about, this could happen again, maybe 10 years from now. What technology have you used in your company you feel like has been useful? Like, you think, and that maybe kind of leads into the other question too, is what have you found any things like, hey, this has really been helpful. We got to make sure that when we do get back to normal, whatever that normal will be, that this is something we need to focus on. Has anything like that hit either of you? Like,
well,
seeing something
thankfully we upgraded our server right before this happened, or most everyone's VPNing into our server from their house. That's the way we're operating. We did have to scramble to get laptops all set up for it because we weren't really set up. I mean, we had a day to do it really before we needed to shelter. We needed to shelter that night after the
Right.
order came through.
I had just spoken to you and you're like, I can't talk. I'm going to be closed
Yep.
down at 8 o'clock tonight. And I'm like, they didn't give you 24, 48 hours. And you're like, nope. New York, we had a little bit more time. But we're all learning these Zoom meetings. And I have to say, I've been on as many meetings as I would in person. And I don't have to travel into the city back and forth. So it's definitely saved me travel time. My days are very jam-packed, but I have to say a little bit shorter because I get a lot more done in a shorter amount of time.
So that might mean in the future, you might look at using maybe the Zoom, like this sort of conference for your people a little bit more, try to integrate that a little bit more often. Is that kind of, yes. I kind of got that feeling you're thinking that, which I think is actually a good idea. I actually do think the same thing for my people that are, I don't have a very big staff, but we're sort of spread out and we try to meet regularly, and we're meeting regularly. We actually have now a Zoom time that we all get on the thing, do at the same time. And it works quite well, actually. So it's one thing, I guess, we figure we've learned from this. So I guess what I think I'd like to finish up with a final question, because both of you are definitely industry leaders. You're powerful people in the industry. Do you have any advice for others that are getting into the wall and ceiling world, or like what, just overall advice, and what you plan on doing in the future and how you see it going? Do you have any insights on that? That was that was kind of an open-ended question. So,
yeah.
Well, I guess how about if I ask, Have you thought about what you think our new world is going to look like? I mean, that's another thing to think about. Is like, you think we're going to be wearing masks on jobs from now on, or doing things like that? Do you think
Definitely
that's
in New York. I mean, our
Yes.
governor just mandated it. So anytime you're out in public places, you have to. I think it's going to make construction safer. Even with the OSHA regulations, we all know there are the ones that take the glasses off, or I think having to wear masks and definitely gloves. And I think it's going to waken the GCs and the owners that they're going to have to spend more dollars for washing stations and better toileting areas, because these guys, one right after the other, that's really the way a lot of this stuff is getting spread. So the money's got to be spent to keep the people safe. It's got to be safety first. We're no good without the guys working out there.
Chris, I think you're 100% right. You and I are sharing the same vision. I can see that. I can see that OSHA is going to focus on those things more and more in the future, and they're going to force general contractors, the ones that haven't been playing by the rules, to actually have more wash stations and things like that. And that's even when things get back to normal. I mean, I think that as we go on, and I'm sure Nancy agrees with that too.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the social distancing is going to be a factor. I think that's going to slow production in a lot of the ways that we do work now. So what will that do? That it's going to drive the cost up if it's going to slow production, right? Yeah. Going forward.
At this point, we look forward, and all the bids we have out there, if we manipulate the production and add money for all the PPP, I'm looking at next year barely breaking even.
Well, I'd like to turn it over to Jill, but I really would like to thank Chris and Nancy for being part of this. It's been very informative. And I tell you, I wish both of you, I hope that you can get those loans that you've applied for. I'll just tell you that what happened to my wife's boss, he said he had a friend that he had known for, was a manager of a very small bank that he didn't even bank at. And he told him, and his bank he uses, my wife's boss, is a very large bank. And he said, yeah, that's kind of the problem. You're probably very, very low. And he said, what's your number? And he said, I can do it. It doesn't have to be through your own bank. And he actually said, I think I can get this through for you. Now, that was just yesterday. He said, I'm going to try to push it through for you as a small banker, that I might be able to do that. So I think sometimes you might have to think, and I'm not saying that you guys are, wherever you're at, it's fine, but sometimes we have to think outside the box and maybe do little different things. It's
well, actually, if I didn't talk to Nancy, I wouldn't have known how much of the benefits we were able to put in. So my loan went from, say, $1.5 million to over 2.2.
Wow.
Just by adding the benefits. And
that's the great part about Contractors which is so good about you all working together and sharing. You're helping each other, and I think that shows how a tight community this is. Jill, thank you. I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you. Well, a couple things that, as I close this out, that each of you kind of separately talked about. Chris, you mentioned that you're the vice president of the WBE. And can you tell me what resources?
WBC, Women Builders Council. That's okay.
Women Building Council. Yep. Thank you for correcting me. But those are such great organizations. What is like probably the one main resource that you've been able to utilize through them that has really helped you?
There's not one. It's such a great group of powerful women who know people from either the political side or the industry side or the contacts that we've been able to, through this group, push MWBE initiatives in New York City as well as New York State. We're a force to be reckoned with, and because of the knowledge that all these women bring together. And you talk about Zoom conference, there were 37 of us on a Zoom conference just recently, and it's great. Everybody chips in, and together we do it.
So it sounds like it's the networking that's been really invaluable. That's awesome. And Nancy, you mentioned earlier, I think that it sounds like you're on a weekly call with WACA. Did I hear you say that?
Yes.
What are those, I mean, how has that networking helped you, and how are those resources been helpful?
Oh, it's been great. We keep each other updated about our area and what's going on, and how the jobs are functioning or not functioning. It's just it's vital information we need to know as far as the whole industry, actually. And you know, the AWCI, that's also got its website up for the COVID-19, which has been great too. And we actually had our board meeting yesterday on Zoom, and we got a report from across the country, which was great to hear too. You makes you feel like you're not alone, right? We're all in this together, and we were all just really grateful to be on the call.
Yeah, I think that that's really what it's been all about, and something that I feel really grateful for is to be able to help facilitate some of the networking, because I love to be able to connect people, and I hope people that are watching today have some nuggets of takeaway, and hopefully they will also feel like they're not alone, because like you're saying, we're all in this together. But again, I just want to thank everybody for watching. Mark, did you have something else?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone so much for watching and your time and insight today, especially from Nancy and Chris. And also, if anybody has not been a subscriber yet to Walls and Ceilings, please go to wconline.com. All of our contact information is there as well. You can communicate with us. And again, thank you all so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you guys next time. And everyone
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jill
you. Stay
and
safe.
Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Stay safe and healthy.
You too.